Hello, and welcome to Astoria Film Festival Spotlights. Today, we're speaking with the cast and crew of Listen, a documentary short made by non-speaking autistic people about non-speaking autistic people. The film was made in response to Sia's Music, which was a film featuring a non-speaking autistic character, but in a very stereotypical, derogatory way. They didn't seem to have consulted any actual non-speaking autistic people to see if that was an accurate representation of them. The film Listen is made by non-speaking autistic people, featuring themselves, explaining who they are, explaining that they can understand everything, that if given the chance, they can communicate via typing or spelling, and that they very much want to be heard.
We are all autistic and we are unable to rely on speech to be understood. Most of us are non-speaking. Some of us can speak a little or from time to time. People have a lot to say about us. They write stories and biographies. They produce plays and make movies about us, but they are not listening to us.
Today, I'd like to welcome Tania Melnyczuk, Jordyn Zimmerman, Bobby Shabangu, and Damon Kirsebom. We'd love to hear from you about what you hope people learn from watching Listen.
Well, I hope that the main message which the film was made for comes across to people, whoever is putting together some kind of creative work, whether it is a stage play, whether it's a book, whether it's a film about non-speakers, that from now on people will listen to non-speakers, and like that key message in the film, which was about consult non-speaking people from the beginning, during at key points throughout your project, not just one person. You know, you really need to get a balanced and a rounded perspective by listening to a lot of non-speakers. That's the one main thing I hope they get. But I also hope that it goes beyond that. The same principle is carried through into things like research, policy, therapies. So the therapists are going to say things to non-speakers like, wow, the non-speaking kids that I have under my care are not communicating proficiently like you are typing on a keyboard. How did you get to that point? That they ask those questions, that researchers are not saying, oh, you know, our research about people who have high support needs is really so important, and that's why we're not going to listen to you speaking autistics. I'm autistic myself. I understand that, fine. You do not have to listen to me, but then please do listen to non-speakers. Ask non-speakers what their research priorities are. Ask them, how would we design a study to show that? Ask them, these are the results that we got from our studies. How would you interpret what we have found there? So it's the same principle at the beginning, at key points throughout your project. I hope that people are going to be listening to non-speakers.
Absolutely. Nothing about us without us, indeed. Bobby, do you want to address the same question?
Yeah, I think what was important was the voice and to give it a face. You know, most of the time, especially when considering, you know, that some of us are coming from communities that are Black and that don't necessarily have a definition or a name, you know, on autism or on non-speakers. It actually defines, it gives another dimension to what non-speakers are. And I think that was important, you know, because
absolutely,
most of the time, if you know, in our communities, especially in the townships and in the rural areas, find a kid or someone who is a non-speaker, they are more associated with having mental illness and witchcraft, that they're being bewitched, and which is really something that is not true. So I feel that this film and the song, the documentary, was an eye-opener, especially to young people, to just understand what is happening with autism and the non-speaking community.
It's fascinating what you say about thinking they're bewitched, because even here in the United States, it's even in New York City, it's not so much, we don't say bewitched, but like people have this idea of non-speaking people being magical, like, so that if they see it positively, it's like magic, and like they're like little angels, and it's like, no, they're humans, they're just humans who communicate differently, right? So very much it's needed worldwide, even though the language is different for it. It's still, people still have a very misleading misconceptions about it. Jordyn, did you want to go next?
We obviously can't force anyone to see us as competent, but I do hope the world learns that non-speaking autistic people have a lot to say and a lot to contribute. We each bring a lot to our respective communities. The superficial level understanding of autism that is most often portrayed in the media is inaccurate and quite harmful to us, which is why it's so important that people don't tell other people's stories, especially if they have little or no connection to the community they're attempting to represent.
Absolutely. Damon, do you want to answer that question?
Think so, Tania. First time. I appreciate your advocacy so much. So relieved to be here with all of you. Shall I play my question and responses for the group?
That would be lovely. And thank you. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much for putting together such a powerful little film. I am grateful to have participated in Listen. I hope that when people watch, they will be struck by how human non-speakers actually are. I also hope they will grasp a concept that is evident to non-speakers. We understand, even when we cannot communicate our understanding. Finally, I hope the takeaway is that non-speakers who have access to communication are the best resource when it comes to learning about non-speakers. Thank you.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Across the board, we need to just listen better to the populations we're talking about. The media tends to do that horribly. And then this population gets, in my opinion, the worst treatment. So really hoping that we get this message across and out there. And I'm grateful to you for being part of this film and doing just that. Tania, the next question is, what is one way Listen has already made an impact in your life or the lives of others? Would you like to take that, Tania?
It was a really good experience to work with non-speakers and to be edited by non-speakers during this film, because I have worked with non-speakers on advocacy before, but not in such an interactive way. And that is changing, and Jordyn particularly, because Jordyn was the editor and had to check everything, that if I put in something, sometimes there was things that I put in, which were not things that non-speakers had said directly, but they were things that were needed to connect the scenes to each other. And Jordyn edited all of that and said, this is a misconception, that thing is wrong, this is, it's those kinds of things. And that was very helpful. And I felt quite privileged, because not a lot of people get that kind of opportunity as a speaking actor.
Absolutely.
To have the interaction with non-speakers on something like that, and forcefully as well, which I appreciate. The other thing, the way that it has changed things around me. I mean, I've been in advocacy for a long time, and I've been in advocacy and activism for the rights of non-speaking people for a long time. So I've been, and in that, sharing the words of non-speakers for a long time. Read this blog, please do this, read so-and-so's book, read this thing, watch this movie that they've made. But somehow when Listen came out, suddenly 10,000 views within the first day. And I was like, but I've been trying to get you to, not to listen to me, I've been trying to get you to listen to them for like so long. So what has happened here? And it just seems that, well, for one thing, the timing was apt. People were looking out for something because there had been this kind of a social media blah, blah, blah going on around Sia's movie. And for in that, I might want to just add that I don't think that's all of the vitriol should have been directed at Sia alone. There were so many people who said, yes, Sia, please go ahead. Yeah, I'm part of your movie. Yeah, you know, do this thing. This was not one person with a misguided idea alone.
Yes,
it's an
yes.
entire society, you know, that thought that this would be an okay thing to do. But within the first day, 10,000 hits on the YouTube video alone, let alone the Facebook ones and the Twitter ones which came along, I saw just how powerful film was as a medium. That music, which was created by an autistic composer, that the voice of an autistic narrator, that there were autistic people involved in every aspect, and people may not have seen that and known that about the background of when they watched it, that it was such, you know, so many autistic people collaborated in this, but somehow all of that worked together. And then the voices of the actual non-speakers speaking for themselves, and in such a gentle and yet very compelling way. There wasn't all of this shouting and anger and everything in there. It was just very forceful. Listen to us, ask us. And somehow that in film, with music, with visuals, with actual non-speakers' word, changed everything. And people who normally don't listen actually started to listen. Groups of people that I can't reach and usually wouldn't want to listen to me. Maybe you don't even like me. And that's okay. I don't mind. People don't have to all like me as long as they're listening to non-speakers. That's my message out there. You know, if somebody else has to say it. And this film has enabled us to get into places we never would be able to get.
That's wonderful. Yes, absolutely. Bobby?
So I think one of the things that this has done was to bring out, you know, the element of normalizing, especially non-speaking, you know, non-speakers to be part of the community, to be seen in a different light, to normalize seeing non-speakers to be in the public eye, in the public media, you know, as part of the social media, and to be not viewed or to be not hidden in some way. In South Africa as well, there are a lot of people that, you know, have families, family members that are autistic, that are non-speakers, and I think over this documentary, you know, this film has you know, given that voice and has assured people that there's nothing wrong really. You can actually let non-speaking members of your family be, and you can actually expose them to the normal day-to-day activities that you are also doing, but not look down upon them. So for me, really, the takeaway is just normalize non-speaking people, normalize them.
Absolutely.
That's the takeaway from me. Thanks, over to you.
Absolutely. Jordyn?
There have been so many parts of Listen that have impacted me, but I have been filled with so much excitement each time I hear about a school or classroom watching Listen and holding discussion space with their students. Those students are the next generation of artists and are gaining the knowledge needed to include us non-speaking autistics in their future work. That is extremely powerful.
Absolutely. And I'm thrilled that you're going into education, that now you're working on your master's in education at Boston College, and you're going to be the future, I hope, of special education, because I hope there's no more special education. I hope it's all just education, because I think it starts in schools. I think if you're with non-speaking autistics in your classroom, that normalizes it, right? That's where children get their understanding of what's normal, what's not normal. And by excluding people, it just creates problems from the beginning.
Loved the script and exquisite narration. The non-speaking voices are powerful. I have been contacted by so many people regarding how they can listen to their children or students. Lots of questions about learning how to communicate. This is such a big step for all non-speakers. People see us as capable of speaking for ourselves. Thanks.
Absolutely. If anyone has anything they'd like to add before we wrap up, I don't want to, feel free. No, you're all good. Thank you so much to all of you for creating this film, for advocating for the rights of non-speakers and autistics and in general, and for just being who you are. I appreciate you. I am thrilled that you're doing the work you're doing. So thank you. Thank you very much.